back, viewers. One of the biggest talking point in the country for the last couple of days has been the infighting within the Congress party, with Sachin Pilot taking on Ashok Gehlot one more time in Rajasthan. The big turning point was today when the Congress party, after making a couple of public attempts of reaching out to Sachin Pilot and asking him to return with his supporters, then announced the decision that he will no longer be a Rajasthan minister or even the state Congress chief. We are yet to hear from Sachin Pilot on what his next course of action is going to be, and that's become a big talking point. But just to talk about the affairs of the party and how it's been dealing with this one after the other challenge that's actually come up, I've got Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, member of the Parliament of the Rajya Sabha, joining me this evening. Good evening, Dr. Singhvi. First of all, good to have you back on the show and to see you hale and hearty, in these times of pandemic. Of course,
Thank you.
the party doesn't seem to be in that great of a health state right now.
Let me assure you, Tanvi, that I had a bit of turbulence. In my case, the turbulence was completely zero symptoms. Though I was positive, I had zero symptoms right through 20 days. And I tested negative then. Similarly, the party's turbulence, I can assure you, will be even more short-lived than the 20 days I'm talking about. Now, I want to make 3 points to you, Ranvi. Sachin Pilot not only is a personal friend and a valued colleague, but I consider him one of the best and brightest in the party. We have great admiration for his diverse acumen and talents. And there is no doubt that even today as I speak, all doors are open to him. Let us be clear on that. Number two, that there are certain boundary red flags which are inevitable in any party. It's not a question of Congress. No party can allow it. And those boundary red flags, you cannot allow anyone, and this applies even to Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, what to talk of Sachin Pilot, that they will break a government of their own party or their party in any which way. That becomes an absolute boundary red flag. Now, I can fully appreciate Tanvi that he has some genuine grievances. I'm prepared to go to the extent of saying that he has some merit in some grievances. But for that, he had to raise it from the top to the bottom, and all doors are open to him. It cannot be this way. And even if he does it now, it would be solved. Lastly, I think you have to realize that the law and the system we have, which is that we have called it a constitutional sin. If you are a member of my party, unless and until you resign, you cannot do any anti-party activity. I'm not talking this time of Sachin Pilot, by the way. I'm saying for MLAs generally. That's a red flag which all parties draw. That in case you are elected on my ticket, you cannot then do things against my party as long as you are in it. You may resign and do what you like. So I think these principles are how you have to harmonize.
Okay, but Dr. Singhvi, there have been two Congress leaders who have tweeted just in the last 1 hour. Dr. Singhvi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Shashi Tharoor and Priya Dutt both have tweeted, making it sound as if Sachin Pilot has already left the party. What are we to make of these tweets? Has there been any communication from Sachin Pilot, or do you believe now there is no turning back for him? There is really no way he can come back.
No. You see, there is no such thing as making it sound. I mean, these are very heartfelt tweets. I myself just said on TV that one of the most valued colleagues. And these tweets are also conveying our long-abiding friendships and that the fact that nobody wants to lose him. I don't think they're talking about technical point, whether he has left the party or left the deputy CM-ship or left the presidentship of the PCC. That I don't think is the distinction they're making. So I think you're reading too much into this thing. We are all expressing, as I did indeed orally just now before you, our heartfelt desire and wish that even as we speak, he decides to kind of fully settle down and talk about his grievances. But let me also say one thing. I think it's a disservice to Pilot himself to suggest that one fine morning he woke up and said, look, today is the July of so-and-so 2020. I've decided that I have to become CM, therefore I walk out. That's not even his own case. That he has made his view very clear. He was the PCC president. He walked us to victory. And according to him, he deserved CM-ship. There was a bit of a problem for a couple of days, or 3 days in 2018. That issue was then decided. And once I decide that you, Tanvi, will be CM, I will be deputy CM, then that line is drawn. Now, you cannot 2 years later suddenly say one day that, look, I should have been then CM. I asked for CMship then. Today, I now again assert myself. If you don't do it, I will break the party. Indeed, I think that is not the case of Pilot himself. What his case is that he has some grievances, and according to him, very strong grievances. And I can talk about those merits, but there's no point talking about it. And I would go to the extent of saying that those grievances may have some merit. Well, then I think, let me say openly and candid camera, there's not one of those grievances are those which can't be settled across the table. But not like this.
Then how? What is the other way? Because leader after leader we have seen has sent multiple feelers and signals to the party leadership, to our central leadership, that they're unhappy. Somehow we've on the face of it looks like we've not been able to resolve it, whether it's Jyotiraditya Scindia, who then left the party altogether, Sachin Pilot, who did this last couple of days.
No, I think we are comparing.
In Mumbai we've seen Milind Deora at one point of time resign from his post, and no, there are several more. There are many more who've said that the youngsters are not being given a chance, and then it is our time and for us to be paid our dues as well. But that doesn't seem to be getting a reaction from the Congress leadership.
I think this is a wrong notion. If you look closely, number one, more young people, so-called young versus old is not an equation, but more young people in the Congress party have got more responsibility right through 10 years of UPA and subsequently in the party post 2014 than in any other party. So this is a false equation, young and old. Mr. Pilot himself, a MP at 26, a minister at 32, a deputy CM in his early 40s and 40, I don't think that is a fair point to make. And there I can recite to you 20 names where diverse responsibilities have been given, including the names you have taken. But there are so many people at all levels in our party, general secretaries, coordinators, cell heads, who are very young and are given lots of responsibility. You see the people who are doing firefighting in Rajasthan, for example. Now, I think this is overstated, it is exaggerated, as if there is a press button mechanism that the moment somebody so-called young says something, he should be given. That's not the way parties work. The BJP doesn't do it, no other party does it. And certainly no party will do it at the barrel of a gun.
Okay, then I will come back to the question that I had asked you earlier. How should this be done? If you say that Sachin Pilot's way was wrong, what should he have done to get the Gandhis to respond?
Now, I am first and foremost saying that it is unfair to Sachin Pilot to say that he got up and said, I'm leaving because I'm not CM. That's not his case. That's not why he could have left, and that's not why he appears to have left. That issue was decided, only you can be CM, two people can't be CM. And suddenly nothing has changed that you say, I want to become from deputy CM to CM. Point number two. Yes, Mr. Gehlot and Mr. Pilot both jointly pointed out huge amounts of terrible fishing in muddied and troubled waters by the BJP, both together, mind you. And both held press conferences together. And a few weeks ago, people were taken away to a resort to prevent. Till there, we are together. Subsequently, an inquiry was instituted. And the inquiry, at least the bona fide and the correct interpretation of it, was to question everyone to get at the root, because two BJP persons were named. Now you're asking me how or what Mr. Pilot could have done. I believe at this point, Mr. Pilot has some grievances. And I am immediately considering that his grievances might have some legitimacy. Although the other counter view is that this SOG is simply an inquiry which is going to equally ask questions of the CM, of the Chief Whip Mahesh Joshi, of several other MLAs. And the BJP was put in a corner by Mr. Gehlot by saying that these were people fishing. But if Mr. Pilot had a grievance because of the notice and it felt that there was a humiliation, I can tell you that there is not any door in the Congress closed to him. It could have been explained, it could have been sorted out, we could have sat together. But imagine the day between the SOG notice and Mr. Pilot's action is one day. So, you have to think of perspective. People are saying, oh, young people, anti-merit, he should have become CM. That's not the issue.
So, the way it's been done now, Dr. Singhvi, many say that there's pretty much a clear indication that Congress is ready to move on. Why would Sachin Pilot come back now? We've taken away his post in the cabinet. We've taken away his post as the party chief in the state.
Look, first of all, there's no taking away. This has happened today. The action which led to today was happening for the last 2 to 3 days. You tell me, is your perceived actions by not attending CLPs, by having hostile MLA groupings, by hobnobbing with parties like the BJP, is it compatible with you being a deputy CM? Is it compatible with you being a PCC president? And how long did the Congress wait before these two things were done? 3 days. So I don't think you're seeing the other perspective. Secondly, I think if the intentions are good on both sides, I think you can still have a rapprochement, even as I speak, even after these actions. But equally, I agree with you that the path to hell sometimes is paved with good intentions. You and I may both have good intentions, but we may still hurtle towards, this kind of a problem. And that is what happens sometimes in the affairs of mice and men.
Okay, Dr. Singhvi, good to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. I appreciate the fact that you took out the time.
Thank you.
Of course, there is still no clarity on what Sachin Pilot is going to do next, but we'll wait and watch to see how the leadership handles this. Thank you, Dr. Singhvi, for joining us. Well, this is also the big conversation we're going to have here tonight on the Urban Debate. The fact that the Congress party today came out and sacked Sachin Pilot as a Rajasthan minister, as a deputy chief minister, and even replaced him as the Congress chief in Rajasthan. 3 days of drama, of resort politics, of claims and counterclaims, of even the Congress party coming out twice to publicly say, we appeal to Sachin Pilot to come and attend the legislative party meet. Come, let's sit across the table and talk. But when that didn't yield anything, this was their response. What's really happened? Well, effectively, many say that this just shows, and the Congress party has made it clear that that Mr. Gehlot is the boss as far as Rajasthan is concerned. That's not something that the Congress party is going to hand over to Sachin Pilot at this point of time. Many others are also seeing this as the fact that the old guard has won one more time in the Congress party, that again a youngster who is demanding something, trying to get the attention of the party leadership, hasn't seemed to have gotten that the Congress's internal fighting and the factionalism continues. The leadership vacuum has again come into the spotlight. Are they going to choose a new president for the party? Is it going to continue in this way with an interim president? Will we even look at other options beyond the Gandhis to take these decisions? That seems to be the big question again. And of course, the fact that Sachin Pilot's rebellions for now doesn't seem to have delivered him the desired results. Fact of the matter is, there was only one very cryptic tweet that he put out, that you can harass the truth, but you can't defeat it. He's not yet made any response to what the Congress party has done. But Priya Dutt and Shashi Tharoor have put out two very interesting tweets, kind of hinting that Sachin Pilot has moved on and left the party, expressing their disappointment, while Priya Dutt also making it clear that she understands, why he would have taken such a decision. We're going to put those tweets out also for you. But let me quickly bring in our panelists. And say good evening to Rajiv Jaitley, spokesperson for the BJP, Anshul Avijit, national spokesperson for the Congress party, and I've also got Neeja Chaudhary, senior journalist, joining us right now. Neeja Chaudhary, let me begin with you. What do you think should be or could be Sachin Pilot's next step?
I think we will have to wait and see. 2 days ago, he said that he would not be going to the BJP. So obviously he was thinking of a strategy other than that. Now the Congress feels that the BJP has ensnared him. Maybe it has. But if it had been a pre-planned BJP operation, it would have, I think, going by its past history, it would have been a very slick operation. not this kind of operation where Sachin Pilot is left with 16, 17 MLAs. So I think the trigger off was the SOG notice, and for anybody to be charged by its own party and government of under provisions like sedition and conspiracy, that's a big thing. That's not a small charge. The chief minister can say that notice has come to me also, but nobody will believe that because the department is under him. But that apart, what is Sachin Pilot's strategy going to be? One, does he go the Scindia way now? Though he's ruled it out, but it's a new circumstances we are in now. Does the BJP allow him to go the Scindia way? Does he launch a regional party in the hope of heading a government? That also we will need BJP support. Why will BJP support a smaller party? What does it get out of it? Or does he, and of course the path of, driving a hard bargain to get something better for him within the organization and not the kind of marginalization that he has complained about, or the power sharing that had, that was illusory, that was promised to him in 2018 when he agreed to be deputy chief minister. Or he launches another party and hits the road and does yatras and goes all over the country and capture the space that belongs to the Congress party. Now that's a long haul if he has that in mind. It will take huge resources. It will take a staying power, people coming to him. It will depend on the sentiment and mood of the country. A lot of imponderables there. So we don't know. We are looking forward to hearing what he has to say tomorrow at 10 o'clock about what he has in mind for the future.
Yes, but the fact that these posts have been taken away from him for him to come back, would he then continue to enjoy the kind of support that he has? Wouldn't it put him too much of a weak foot?
Sorry, the posts, I didn't catch that. So the posts that have been taken away from him, therefore?
Yes, why would he come back now? Wouldn't it put him on a weaker foot?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Why would he come back? I think that it's an irretrievable break. And the unfortunate thing is that, it has made the government in Rajasthan shaky. Even if they go through a confidence vote, it is going to be a vulnerable government. The BJP will certainly try and ensnare more MLAs to come to their side. The BJP may want the government to go. It may not want to form an alternative government. It may opt to go for president's rule. We don't know what the BJP will do, but certainly the BJP will fish in the troubled waters. So what has happened is really unfortunate and was preventable, according to me, had the High Command moved in time. The High Command and the central leadership have known this has been brewing. They've known about the tensions. Had they intervened and got Gehlot and Pilot to sit together and sort it out, it might have been possible. But even till Saturday when he came to Delhi, one would have thought Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi would meet him. But that did not happen. And so I think, the bottom line is Pilot has lost out, Gehlot has lost out, the government of Rajasthan has lost out, an opposition government, and the Congress knew how important Rajasthan was for it. And of course, the Congress party has lost out, the opposition voices have lost out, and we don't know who's gained. So it is a very unfortunate handling of the whole situation that has taken place.
Let me get an Anshul Avijit on that. Anshul Avijit, to the point that Neerja Chaudhary was making, very unfortunately, the way it's been handled, react to the point that she's made about it, because right now it looks like even though the central leadership knew what was brewing, they allowed it to fester to a point where now there's no space for Sachin Pilot to return.
Tanvi, let me just put this into perspective, and this is in no way to undermine Sachin Pilot's capabilities or achievements. Now, the basic tenet of a parliamentary democracy, whether it's at the center of any state, is that the elected representatives decide who their leader is going to be. They decide who the first among equals is going to be, whether the prime minister or that in the state, and that is decided through either consensus or through meetings or through the show of hands or through secret ballot, as you have in other countries. here it was clearly decided in 2018, since we are talking about the issue of the chief ministership, and there seems to be some kind of discord or grievance on the part of Sachin Pilot that he was not made the chief minister. We are talking on that point. It was decided in 2018 by the MLAs who they want as chief minister. There was no doubt in their minds, regardless of the fact that maybe Sachin Pilot had done the heavy lifting by the time he was in opposition, considering all this. And even now, by the images that are coming out earlier from the residence of the Chief Minister, Ashok Gehlot, the meeting that he had yesterday, all the MLAs were there, they raised their hands and they decided who they want as their chief minister. These MLAs comprised of young and old people, since we're always drawing fault lines in the Congress between this wedge between old and young, and of course the young are under hostage or under siege for some reason or the other. That is not the case at all. They have decided who their chief minister is going to be. So that matter is settled. Now we have to look at the political trajectory of Mr. Pilot. Does anything tell you, while looking at his biography or his CV, and this has often been reported throughout the day on television channels, what tells you that he has ever been shortchanged in any kind of way, marginalized or sidelined? I mean, Union Council of Ministers, the state president, now Deputy Prime Minister, I think that indeed his capabilities have been rewarded. There's been responsibilities given for him to actually articulate his competence. So I don't think there's any problem there at all. There is problem in the only problem that actually exists.
No, so let me ask you one simple question.
BJP.
So are you telling me, Anshul? Let me ask you a simple question, and then you can make your BJP point. Let me just ask you this: are you telling me that the Congress top leadership, the central leadership, the Gandhis, did speak to Sachin Pilot every time he raised this issue or wanted his voice to be heard, and despite those attempts, you've come to this situation?
What I'm trying to tell you is that there are mechanisms which exist in the Congress party. There is a particular structure that is established within the Congress party. There are general secretaries, there are secretaries, there are emissaries that are constantly sent. There is constant dialogue, there's constant articulation of grievances and discord. Now, this is not unusual in any party. When you have leadership struggles, for example, in the UK, these things are decided. In the Republican Party in the US, you all know how bitter that campaign, which finally got Trump elected, turned out to be. There are kind of squabbles, there is discord. It's unfortunate, I think, that it's turned out this way, but sometimes, ability cannot match ambition. So you do not have the MLAs, but you have the ambition. Now here is where the BJP comes in, and I must bring the BJP here, because unfortunately, as articulated by the Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot himself, Mr. Sachin Pilot seems to be some kind of pawn, or has become some kind of sacrificial pawn in their larger chess game of brutal and ruthless politics, which takes over states, which has no regard for ethics, the ethics of democracy, for processes, for proprieties, for institutions, and just simply a very ruthless and subversive power game which they have adopted. We've seen it everywhere. I don't want to give you the litany of names about the states, but the most shameful one that comes to mind, Tanvi, is that of Madhya Pradesh, where it happened quite recently, where the entire country was kept at hostage at a time of the looming COVID crisis to destabilize the government. It happens routinely, and we know, because Mr. Pilot is staying in a resort in Haryana, that we know that there is a larger game plan of the BJP to destabilize the government.
Okay, let me get in the BJP to respond to that. Rajiv Jaitley, yet again, this seems to be something that Congress says is, BJP's fault.
I don't know why they are mentioning BJP all the time. It was Sachin Pilot Saab who mentioned that my power has been curtailed by Chief Minister of Rajasthan, Mr. Ashok Gehlot. And Ashok Gehlot was the director of this movie, and producers were sitting in Delhi. They were aware of everything. Why Mr. Sachin Pilot was moving to Delhi all the time, since you were mentioning just now that he always tried to meet Mr. Rahul Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi. but he never got opportunity to keep his notions, keep his what is happening with them in Rajasthan. He always tried to do that. And Mr. Sachin Pilot has mentioned everything. Their member of legislative assemblies are coming out with videos saying that they are not fulfilling the promises made to the farmers of Rajasthan. And Rahul Gandhi made some commitments in Rajasthan prior to elections. They were not fulfilled. So it is only about the Congress party. It is there is an infight between Congress within party leadership. I think BJP has got nothing to do with it. We are very clear that we want young people to come forward, whether they are from BJP or from other parties. This has happened. Can you? Hello? Hello?
Yes. Okay. Yes, I can hear you.
I think something went wrong with my this thing. I think this has to respond by Congress leadership itself, whether they are producers, whether they are directors. Eventually, what they wanted, because since Jyotiradittya Scindia also joined Bharatiya Janata Party, because he was aware that his career is in, there is no scope in Congress party till Rahul Gandhi gets his position. So Rahul Gandhi is not going to get his position. So why these young people will wait to continue when their powers have been retrieved, when their leadership? This is what Sachin Pilot said, that they are spoiling my political career.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Rajiv Jaitley. Let me ask you this question. Will the BJP take him in? Now that it's very clear that there is hardly anything left for him to go back to the Congress for, will the BJP take him in, since you say he's such a young, dynamic leader?
Why not? We have a principle. We are coming up with a principle. Like, we are going to restrict our district presidents till 50. Even for our state president, we have age boundaries there. So why will not we will allow? We would invite him. We would invite him if he really want to grow, if he want to serve to the state, if he want to serve to the nation. I think this would be the right platform for him to come and join BJP.
Okay, so here is the BJP spokesperson making it very clear that it's the right platform. He can always come and join the BJP. Neerja Chaudhary, the one other thing that I wanted to ask you was, and this question, is actually a lot of people are asking this right now. Why is it that whether it was Jyotiradittya Scindia or Sachin Pilot or some of the other examples as well in Haryana as well, we saw that these young leaders, when they break away from the big party, they just go and join the BJP. Is there no option for them to look at a regional party by themselves? Does that not work in these states?
Yeah, that is an option I think they should look at. At the moment, BJP is obviously welcoming them, and it's a large party, it's a growing party, so obviously it's a very attractive proposition. But the more fundamental point to ask is, why are they leaving the Congress? Why is it happening that they're feeling so suffocated? Why is it that the bright stars, capable leaders of the future, when you talked around in the last year, I remember, and the whole debate was on about somebody replacing a member of the Gandhi Nehru family. Rahul Gandhi had talked about it after the rout of the party in the 2019 election, and you talk to ordinary people and they would remark, and this was not a small group of people, why not Scindia or why not Sachin Pilot? Why can't they be made president? They've done well, they have delivered, and therefore, there is, at the moment, Mr. Singhvi also talked about it, in so many years Sachin Pilot has got this, so he has not been short charge. And I would say, of course, the old way of looking at things was, and the old guard does talk about it even today, is to say, in the party, in politics, you've got to swallow a bitter pill. You've got to endure humiliation. You've got to sit in a corner. You've got to wait, bide your time, and it will come your way. The younger generation is saying, I want to perform, I want to deliver, and I want my due now, not 20 or 30 years later. And it's a way of looking at politics. It's a way of its aspirations, which are very different from the old guard. Of course, there is the tough battle of the old guard not wanting to cede power or responsibility to the younger people. That is a charge often make. Party needs both old and young. It cannot do just with the young or just with the old. So that is also the unfortunate part, that the younger ones are leaving. And I don't think the Congress party leadership has done hard thinking of why this is happening. And a kind of introspection which they need to do if the party is to survive. And I would say today, there is really, I think to myself, is there really a high command in the Congress today? There seems to be no sign of it. Where it should have intervened, where the writing was so clear on the wall that the next target may be maybe Rajasthan, and you knew this tension had been simmering. Why was something not done? Why are you allowing your best people to leave you when the country is looking towards a Congress for an opposition voice?
Fair enough. In fact, let me get Anshul to respond to that. To respond to that. Anshul, the Congress party may want to repeatedly blame the BJP. Even if we had to say that, okay, you thought the BJP is going to do something, there were enough indications, especially after what happened in Madhya Pradesh. Why is it still that the Congress party could not act on time, react on time, and stop this from happening? Doesn't that just prove that there is complete lack of a central leadership?
No, not at all. I mean, just to expand on what Neet just said, I'm glad she said that a party needs both young and old people in that party. They need a mix of experience and youth. And there's not a wedge. I mean, this is an imaginative side of narrative that's been sort of promoted, that there is no wedge in the party between young and old. I mean, there is no fault line. There is no different sides. There is no antagonism here. Both are needed. Now, I get to the central point again. If your ambition is to be the chief minister of a state, Mr. Gehlot, let's not forget, was made the chief minister of Rajasthan when he was 47 years old, 47, 48 years old. Youth was rewarded in that way. And he became chief minister twice after that, and now it's the third term he's serving. So his kind of dedication to the party, his experience has been rewarded. Mr. Pilot's experience, Mr. Pilot's merit has also been rewarded. Now, if he wanted the chief ministership's post, and I'm reiterating the point again, then you have to prove that you enjoy the support of the MLAs. That's what's done as the principle of parliamentary democracy. There is no other way around it. It is done through consensus. It's done through various ways. If that cannot be done, then you have to bide your time till you can. Mr. Pilot has not been rejected because he's not been meritorious. He's not been able to make chief minister because he doesn't enjoy that majority in the House. Regardless of his other accomplishments, nobody's undermining his accomplishments or his capability or his merit. These are all abstract terms in some points, right? What is tested on the ground is hard numbers. That is the reality. That is what the reality with the BJP works on. That is the reality of parliamentary politics. These are numbers on the ground. That is the first past the post system. That is what the numbers of the Lok Sabha are, or any assembly are. So these are the principles in which politics works in the party. It's not that in the Congress party that people are not rewarded for their merit, for their hard work, for their heavy lifting, for the sacrifices they made. I think they have been. Mr. Ashok Gehlot is a prime example of that. So I disagree that they're not being rewarded. Yes, people are leaving the Congress. I do not know why they are going to the BJP and compromising with their principles which they've stood for so long, and suddenly turning out to be something wrong with the Congress party. That's why they're leaving. I mean, you make a diametrical ideological switch, and you blame the Congress party for it. I'm quite amused by that, and also quite saddened by this phenomena. There are various reasons. The party is a very old party. It's a 150-year-old party. It's gone through a lot. In fact, in the 1880s, I would tell you, Dufferin was very keen on seeing the demise of the Congress party. He said that was the single biggest omission. If in the BJP, 120 years later, is voicing the same thing, it doesn't mean that the Congress is going to go away. It's going to come back stronger.
No, so let me ask you this question then. If you believe that he got as much as he deserved and nothing more, and it's Mr. Gehlot who's actually done a lot more and deserves a lot more, how do you stop people from leaving your party? Surely it doesn't always have to be Gehlot versus Sachin Pilot choice. You could have moved out one of them, to better roles, to better responsibilities. Isn't that part of leadership? Here is Priya Dutt, and I'm sure you've seen her tweet by now, who just tweeted saying another friend leaves the party, both both Sachin and Jyotiraditya were colleagues and good friends. Unfortunately, our party has lost two stalwart young leaders with great potential. I don't believe being ambitious is wrong. They have worked hard through the most difficult times. There is a growing voice from within your own party that is also agreeing that young leaders are not getting the space. Anshul.
No, where am I saying that ambition, a young person or an old person has to be critiqued? It has been rewarded. I mean, you just look at the biography of Mr. Pilot. In this particular case, yes, it's unfortunate, but throughout yesterday, as you might have seen, there were gestures made to Mr. Pilot and his camp to come back, to start negotiations. It doesn't mean that negotiations or talking or articulation didn't happen earlier. But at this particular point, since there was a visible break, since there was an open discord, there were attempts made by the Congress to reach out to them. Patience was wearing thin, and then ultimately they decided that, well, if you're going to cross the line to this extent, we are still open. I do hope that things can be resolved. But if they can't, if you've decided on a certain trajectory, then there's nothing can be done about it at the moment. But all manner and all attempt was made, even last year in 2018, if you remember, there was hectic negotiations that were going on between Mr. Gehlot, Mr. Pilot, the Congress leadership, in order to, ensure that a stable government in Rajasthan was formed. Mr. Gehlot had the support of the MPs. They wanted him there, and he was the chief minister. He was a two-time chief minister previous to that. He's been a Lok Sabha member, I think, thrice. So, I mean, there's no dearth of experience there. People wanted him, and that's why he was made. I don't think that there is a problem of articulation in the Congress of expressing grievances at all. That happens in all parties, on all mature democracies all over the world.
I'm completely out of time, so I'm going to leave this conversation here. I think suffice to say, from all the reactions and the comments that are being made, that it's pretty much now very clear that Sachin Pilot is perhaps not going to be returning to the Congress party. The decisions taken by the Congress party earlier in the day have made it, ample clear that they're not going to give Sachin Pilot what he wants. And without that, and after stripping him off his post of a cabinet minister and the state party chief, I don't know what's left for him to really come back. We wait and watch about the announcement that he's going to make and what he really says in his news briefing tomorrow morning. That's going to be at 10 a.m. But this needs to be another warning sign. And if the Gandhis don't want to take the situation in their own hands and fix it and give some kind of a clarity and a vision to the party, it is time for the other senior Congress leaders to take that stand. How many more of these youngsters, the younger leaders, the next generation, are they going to lose? It's not about Gehlot versus Pilot. Both the party's leadership would lie in finding a place for both of them and not having to choose. It's not about Kamal Nath versus Jyotiraditya. Look what's happening in Maharashtra. It's simply dragging its feet on the back of NCP and the Shiv Sena. State after state, the leadership is collapsing, and the one big common thread there is the absence of his central leadership. And if the Gandhis don't do anything about it, it is high time that the other senior leaders stand up, or they simply stand by and see the party crumble completely. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Good evening and welcome back to the Urban Debate here at 9 p.m. viewers. We are going to now put the spotlight on the Kerala gold smuggling ring. And if you remember, Mirror Now actually picked up this story the day it broke. And we got you the details of the entire gold smuggling ring, what was going on, and how it was finally busted. Today, there is a massive twist to that entire case. And some sensational claims have been made by the National Investigative Agency that is now investigating this case. Yes, you got it right. Apart from the internal probe that the Kerala government ordered on the links that one of the top babus had with the accused in this case, it is actually the NIA that is investigating this case. Let me actually tell you what the NIA has now said, that there are terror links to this gold smuggling racket. that this gold smuggling racket, the entire ring, was actually, this funding was being used for terror plotting. It wasn't simply sending across this gold to some jeweler. It wasn't simply a direct gold smuggling route. There are larger connotations, larger angles, dangerous terrorism-linked angles that the NIA claims they are investigating right now. This has obviously put a big question mark on what was going on and just how many people are connected to it. Let me tell you the details of this massive conspiracy. As per the NIA, diplomatic routes were being exploited for the smuggling. That what they found was duplicates of the emblem of the UAE government. The duplicates of those had been used, and they were being used to then exploit the diplomatic channel so that there will be less scrutiny when this smuggling is carried out. The accused had been smuggling since September 2019, had actually managed to smuggle about 160 kilograms of gold since September via this diplomatic route, or at least in the garb of a diplomatic bag that was actually carrying all of this, until it was caught a few days ago when a bunch of customs officials at a Kerala airport got suspicious. Now, not just this, the first link to the Kerala government was actually the top Babu, the principal secretary to the CM's office, who reportedly knew the key accused in this case, Swapna Suresh. The minute that news report came out, the government was swift to react though, and they sacked him from that position. And there is an internal inquiry that's going on. But it hasn't stopped there. Here is something even more interesting that the Times Network has found out. The fact that one of the sitting ministers in the Kerala cabinet, Mr. Jalil, a Kerala minister, also has links to this key accused Swapna Suresh. Now, the NIA investigation actually has gone into the details of the call data records of the key accused, which is Swapna Suresh. And now Times Network has learned that multiple calls were actually made between the smuggling accused and the Kerala minister Jalil. The calls with the Kerala minister were between the period of April 12th to May 26th, and multiple calls, over a dozen calls were made between these two. Minister T.K. Jalil, on his behalf, has rubbished a direct personal relation with Swapna Suresh. Now, he's not denied the calls. He said there were 2 to 3 minute duration calls that were made because he had actually called up for certain work, and he was asked to get in touch with this lady for that. Now, just to give you a brief insight into T.K. Jalil, who is a sitting minister in the Pinarayi Vijayan cabinet, he was also earlier with the Muslim League in his younger days in the early 2000s before he joined the Left Party, and before that, reportedly, in his college days, he was also a member of the SIMI. Now, we don't know if at that point of time it had already been banned, mostly maybe before that, but there is a controversial past that is now being raised. Does all of this hint at a big conspiracy against the country, including terrorism links? And did the minister or anybody within the Kerala government know about who they were dealing with if they had such close links with this key accused? That has become the big talking point this evening. Let's say good evening to Advocate Krishna Das, District President for BJP in Palakkad, Kerala, joining us this evening. Mr. Rajesh MB, former Member of Parliament of the Lok Sabha with the CPIM, joins us this evening. And Sridevi Jayarajan, news correspondent with the News Minute, also with me right now. Sridevi, let me come to you first. What is it that you've picked up from your sources? Just help our viewers understand how the story has really turned in the last couple of days since the NIA stepped in. Okay, we seem to have lost the line with Sri Devi. Let me also bring in Mr. Krishna Das of the BJP joining me right now. Mr. Krishna Das, this is very, very serious, and the fact that this one accused had multiple contacts within the government does raise some questions.
Absolutely. Good evening to all. Rightly stated by you. This case is now turning to be murkier by the day. And what has come out is now very, very serious, with a minister now, after the phone records were broken out by a channel, the minister has come forward and admitted that for the past 4 months he was in touch with this Swapna Suresh, the kingpin of this smuggling case. Now, the minister himself says that he was in contact with this Swapna Suresh for distributing certain items with regard to Eid. All of us know when Eid had happened, and the minister has now admitted that he was speaking to her for the past 4 months. Eid has happened somewhere about a month and a half, just some time ago. And here he admits that he was in touch with this woman for past 4 months, and he has called her not just once or twice, but more than 50 times he has called her, and that's what he admits. It is not what something has come out from the investigation. Now, as far as the background of the this minister is concerned, he is a known Simi activist. After the ban of Simi, then he worked for some time in Muslim League, and then he subsequently he joined the CPM front. And now, what we can see here is that the investigation has reached the doorsteps of the office of the chief minister. There is absolutely now evidence is coming out that the principal secretary, who the chief minister was trying to protect for the past 2 to 3 months, first during the sprinkler issue, now during this gold smuggling case, the chief minister was always trying to protect this man. Now it has come out that he is the person, after this smuggling case was detected, he is the person who has contacted the customs officer to somehow to hush up this case. Now, all of us, we are very well sure that the chief minister's office has played a huge role in this case, and he has to come clean in this issue. And if he is to come clean in this issue, he has to resign, he has to go, and a partial inquiry has to take place.
Inquiry definitely has to take place, but isn't that what the NIA is doing? That's the whole point. The NIA has already, started investigating, and some big links are emerging. Let me see if Sridevi can hear me now. Sridevi, hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
I'm not getting the audio.
I'm not too sure. Okay, okay. We're going to patch you again, Sridevi, so that we have your audio line clearer. Mr. Rajesh MB, good evening to you. You heard what Advocate Krishna Das of the BJP had to say. Krishna Das says that, at this point of time, there has to be some accountability of the Kerala government. It's not just one top Babu anymore. There's also a sitting minister who seemed to have close links with the key accused of this smuggling case.
Let me clear the baseless allegation made both by the anchor and the BJP representative. Mr. Jalil had no links with Simi. Earlier he was with Muslim League, then he quit Muslim League, and still he is not a member of CPIM, or he has not joined CPIM. He is an independent candidate. That's a factual position. Secondly, the minister has released the proof that how Consulate General was instructed him to contact this lady who became an accused in this case later. It was as per the instructions of Consulate General of UAE, he contacted this lady, and the BJP representative has purposefully stated a false thing. He has not contacted so many times. just less than 10 times he has contacted, and the duration of the calls, as you rightly said, is only 2 or 3 minutes. And number two, regarding Chief Minister, it was the Chief Minister of Kerala who wrote a letter to the Prime Minister seeking NIA investigation. And I would like to ask the BJP representative, DIR has, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, DRI has submitted an affidavit in the Mumbai High Court regarding gold smuggling worth rupees 1,500 crore through Gujarat and Mumbai ports, seaports, not airports, seaports. Whether the Gujarat Chief Minister had the courage to seek investigation by NIA. The Kerala Chief Minister had sought an investigation by NIA because we have nothing to hide. We are of the view that this must be probed, this must be investigated, and the truth must come out. And number three, I would like to tell you that the
So
Kerala
let me ask you
police-
this question.
No. Let
Yes.
me complete. Let me complete. You have made serious, baseless allegations. The Kerala police had submitted a copy of the report to both CISF and Customs in 2019 February, 5th of February and 18th of February, stating that there is a possibility of the gold smuggling and the possible links with UAE consulates. And I would like to ask BJP representative what the IB has done, what Customs and CISF has done to prevent that. 1.5 years ago, the Kerala Police intelligence report was shared with both CISF and Customs, but they didn't act. And the MOS External Affairs, he said that this was not diplomatic baggage. NIA has clearly stated that this was a diplomatic baggage, and why the MOS External Affairs, who is a BJP leader from Kerala, he hurriedly denied that this is not diplomatic baggage. So all this points to the fingers points to BJP. The BJP's role, BJP's intention to hide something.
Okay, let me ask you this question, Mr. Rajesh. Is Mr. Jaleel a minister in the Kerala cabinet or not?
He is a minister in the Kerala cabinet.
Has he not consistently, even if it is an independent candidate, fought elections with the support of LDF?
That's a fact known to all, no? Why you are asking that question again? It's a fact known to all. We are not denied that.
I'm asking
The
you.
question is
No,
that
you are
why
saying
you
we are
are-
making
why you
baseless
are-
allegations. I am trying to understand where is it that you are trying to distance yourself completely. For over 14 years, he's fought elections with your support. He is a minister in your cabinet. He has at least spoken to this lady over a dozen times. Now, have you asked him or not what these conversations were about? Call number 1 was on 1st of June at 1:27 p.m. Call number 2 from Mr. Jaleel to Swapna Suresh was on 2nd of June at 4:09 p.m. Call number 3 from Mr. Jaleel to Swapna Suresh was on 5th of June at 1:39 p.m. Call number 4 was on 8th of June. Call number 5 was on 16th of June. Now, in return, there is a SMS that was sent by Swapna Suresh on 23rd of June. Mr. Jaleel called her again on 23rd of June, on 24th of June, on 25th of June, on 26th of June. Now, can you please tell me, instead of saying I'm making baseless allegations, I'm simply stating the facts that have emerged out and asking you a question. What were these calls about? Why was the sitting minister talking to a lady who's now a key accused in the gold smuggling scam?
He has explained, he has met. Can you hear me now? Yeah, he has explained that those calls were as instructed by Consulate General, and he has released the WhatsApp message sent by Consulate General to contact this lady for some purposes. So he has clearly mentioned all these things. He has released those WhatsApp chats. And now I'm again asking why you are not asking the key question. What action was taken by CISF, Customs and IB on the input given by Kerala Police regarding gold smuggling and possible association of UAE consulate? 1.5 years before. How this gold smuggling happens in the last 1 year. NIA has alleged that, has said that this has been happening for the last 1 year. Why the MOS External Affairs is denying? NIA is finding that it was a diplomatic baggage. What was BJP's connection? How another accused, Sandeep Nair, is BJP? Why? How another pro-BJP person called customs for releasing this diplomatic baggage? All these questions are pertinent questions.
Okay, let me bring in Krishna Das at this point of time. Krishna Das, do you want to respond to that? If this was going on for over a year, we know over 130 kgs, 160 kgs of gold has been smuggled in since September. What were the authorities doing? How were we not able to catch in on this?
Surely. See, what Rajesh has stated, it is in public domain. What he says about Sandeep Nair, that false news did not even stand for a day. It was found that this man has connections with CPM, but there was a false news that he was a BJP man just because during the election campaign, our candidate in Trivandrum, Sri Kummanam Rajashekharan, had posed for a photo with him. But that news did not even stand for 24 hours because it came into light that this man had connections with CPM people, and he had a shop opened as known as a Carbon Doctor. And the inauguration was done by the Speaker of Kerala Assembly, Sri Ramakrishnan. It is not that he is a BJP man. It is well known now. It has come in public domain that this man was a CPM man. Please don't interrupt. I have not interrupted. Please don't interrupt. And when Mr. Rajesh says that Jaleel has called the consulate, called Swapna as per the instructions of the consulate. What Jaleel has stated today is that he had contacted Swapna for the distribution of some food packets in relation to Eid. When was Eid, Mr. Rajesh? Eid happened in May 19th, May 20th. These calls are happening in June 25th and 26th. Who are you trying to fool? Do you think the people of Kerala are fools to believe your story? And what about your story about the camouflaged baggage? What the Minister MOS Sri V. Muralidharanji had stated was that the baggage came as a camouflaged diplomatic baggage, not as diplomatic baggage. It was camouflaged as a diplomatic baggage, and he was misquoted as stated that it is not diplomatic baggage. The baggage was sent as if it is a diplomatic baggage, and the minister has very clearly stated the position regarding that. And with regard to as if Mr.
Okay, let me see if I can
saying yes.
Yes, let me bring in Sridevi at this point of time. Sridevi, outside of the back and forth that's happening between the left and the BJP, for our viewers to understand what's going on, take us through the details that have emerged in the NIA investigation so far.
So, the biggest thing that's happening today is that, the customs has actually summoned former IT Minister M. Shivashankar for questioning because there was some reports that some call logs that have leaked recently. I have to say that this was quite a selective sort of leak, and it's yet to be independently verified. But what has emerged now is that the former IT minister was in touch via call with some of the accused persons, mainly Sadiq, who's one of the key accused in this case, had spoken to him at least 4 times in April and May. And so this was one of the main things, main developments that has happened. Now, regarding political links, I feel like any sort of comment at this point would just be speculation. The biggest point today was Mr. Shivashankar being questioned. And we still have to wait to find out more more about the persons who are involved and if there are any bigger sharks involved in this case. Now, one major point that I want to add to this is that, yes, there is a lot of political back and forth that's going on and there is both the opposition as well as the ruling party have been alleging that the accused have links with the opposite party. But the one thing is that now the reports have been emerging that the Consul General or officials from the UAE consulate have been in touch with these accused people. And we know that Swapna as well as Khalid, they were working for the consulate on a work-on-demand basis. They have been going to the airport. They've gone to the airport several times to pick up diplomatic bags. Now, the point here is that if officials from the consulate are involved in this, then it is what is India going to be doing in this case? Like, it is up to the center to be investigating more on this, and that is something that we have to wait and watch.
Okay, let me just go across at this point of time, Sridevi. I'm having a bit of an audio trouble, but let me just ask you one more question, which is on the terror angle. Now, we're given to understand that the NIA has actually informed the court that this whole gold smuggling ring was being used to fund terror activities. Are there any more details that have officially come out on that?
Last we know is that the NIA has filed an FIR against the 4 accused persons under various provisions of the UAPA, which is they have allegations that gold was being smuggled to for terrorist activities and for the purpose of funding terrorism and on the basis of conspiracy. So this is what is the news, is the confirmed news that we have right now. We're still waiting for more information on this angle.
Okay, very quickly, Mr. Rajesh, I know you need to go, but let me get in a quick comment from you as well. Mr. Rajesh, fact of the matter is that the government needs to also look into who else was in touch with this lady. 2 links have emerged. Is there an internal investigation into who else was she in touch with and was using for her, perhaps using for her own benefits?
See, before that, let me clear a falsehood stated by BJP leader. See, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, BJP MP's channel, broke a false news that one of the accused has links with CPIM. Subsequently, it found false, and the chief editor of that television channel publicly apologized for the false news, for the fake news. So that is the fact of the matter. Secondly, regarding this thing, we have offered all support to NIA investigation. In fact, the Chief Minister himself had sought NIA investigation into this. I again ask whether the Gujarat Chief Minister had sought any investigation. Massive amount of gold smuggling through Mundra port as submitted by DRI in its affidavit to Mumbai High Court. So we are in support of this investigation. We want the truth to come out.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Srinivasan Krishnan as well, joining us this evening of the Congress Party. Mr. Krishnan, the left party says that there is nothing, that they have to do with this entire smuggling racket. In fact, it's the centre and the BJP who've been sleeping on this while it's gone on for almost a year. Where does your party stand?
I'll tell you. As far as Swapna Suresh was concerned, she was an extra constitutional authority in the state during the last 1.5 years, mainly because of her close access to the Chief Minister's office. And Mr. Shivashankaran, who has now been removed as the Principal Secretary to the Chief Minister, was known to be the conscience keeper of the Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan. In this particular case, Swapna Suresh was appointed as the coordinating officer for a Space Park project, which comes under the IT department, where Mr. Shivashankaran is the IT secretary also. Can you imagine a person who has been appointed to the crucial post of a coordinator for a space project under which has coordination with the Indian Space Research Organization, investigation shows that she has not even passed the 10th standard. And all the certificates that which she produced for interview are fake. Do you mean to say that such a person was appointed to the key post without the influence and support of the Chief Minister's office? And when she was arrested, or when the investigation by the Customs Department and the investigation agencies pointed towards Swapna Suresh, so many phone calls came from the Chief Minister's office, especially when the baggage was detained at the Trivandrum airport. So many calls came from the Chief Minister's office. Now, Mr. Rajesh was mentioning that the state intelligence had given a report to the central government about the gold smuggling. What I want to ask is, did the state intelligence not get the report that a person who is close to the Chief Minister's office was also not involved? Or was it that the state intelligence was aware of the fact, but they were afraid to take action against her? The general information in the society also knew about her activity, but they were afraid to take action because of her closeness and proximity to the Chief Minister's office. It's a disgrace and a shame, the things coming out of the investigation, that this principal secretary to the Chief Minister used to be in a drunken mood and used to participate in rape parties in this lady's house up to 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. The people living in that apartment are now coming out and saying that we have complained several times about these rape parties and senior government officials coming to our house at 12 a.m., 12 in the night and 1 a.m. And still the police refused to take action because of the intervention of the senior officials from the Chief Minister's office. Now, when the Chief Minister's office, a key officer of the Chief Minister's office is involved in this, now at this time, the customs is interrogating him. What prevents the Chief Minister from suspending Mr. Shivashankaran? I have also worked as a private secretary to the Chief Minister in the 90s. Now, the Chief Minister had complete control over the functioning of his office. This indirectly shows that either knowingly or unknowingly, the Chief Minister is also part of this. Otherwise, why is he refusing to suspend this officer when so many allegations have come? So let not Mr. Rajesh or the CPM try to belittle all these investigations, details coming out in the investigation. What you have to understand is, NIA now says that this gold was not used for distribution to jewelry, which is what normally happens in smuggling cases. But this was used for anti-national activities. When such serious allegations have been are directed at the Chief Minister's office, the Chief Minister should resign. When an ISRO scandal came in the 1995 against the then Chief Minister K. Karunakaran, he resigned from the office. There were no direct allegations, there were no proof. Just because of allegations, there was no proof. Here it's a direct case of gold being smuggled and being used for anti-national activities. And the Chief Minister of the state refuses to even suspend his conscience keeper, Mr. Shivashankaran. Now, what moral authority does the Chief Minister have to continue in his office?
Okay, well, unfortunately, Mr. Rajesh isn't here to respond to what you're saying, but that is something that the Chief Minister will have to answer repeatedly since the story has broken out. Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan has said that he's had no idea about this woman. And there was absolutely at no point that his office is actually being used. When the news emerged of the links of the Tout Babu in the CM office with this key accused, with this lady Swapna Suresh, he was immediately sacked, and there is an internal investigation which is going on. NIA on his part carries on with the investigation. Here is the interesting thing and the shocking detail that has come out, viewers, that this wasn't simply a gold smuggling racket. This actually, according to the NIA, also has terrorism links. The money from this racket was actually being used to fund terrorism or to plan activities against our country. 160 kg of gold smuggled since September through this route, where it was actually coming in a bag that was labeled as a diplomatic bag, addressed to the UAE consulate with a false and a fake emblem and all of that, just to give the impression to the airport authorities that this would actually be a bag that would otherwise have diplomatic immunity or would be on the diplomatic route. That's how they were smuggling in all of this gold. The key accused is Swapna Suresh, and her links within the Kerala government, including a sitting minister, have now become a big problem for Pinarayi Vijayan. I am completely out of time. I'm going to thank all of our panelists for joining us on this conversation.